Georgia, and I work for the Sunrise Project, which was this year's Times Higher Education's International Collaboration of the Year for 2020. And today I'm talking to our principal investigator, Professor Dave Worsley. Could you tell us a little bit about the background of Sunrise and why it was needed in the first place?
Yeah, well, Sunrise is a partnership between several UK universities and colleagues in India. And the idea really came from the sort of buildings that are behind me here, virtually, of course, which are powered by the sun, and they're powered with new types of photovoltaic, which are more easily manufactured than traditional photovoltaics. And the buildings have batteries and heat stores and things in them as well, so that they're sort of self-sufficient or can provide exported energy. So when we started the Sunrise project, we'd had this experience of operating these buildings in Wales where it's kind of rainy and horrible all the time. And the opportunity came to look at deployment and testing of these things in India, where the weather conditions are much more suitable, and where the energy that we might make from the buildings is going to really transform people's lives, and the facilities could be really useful. So we look all the way from making solar cells in the labs and working with university teams to share knowledge in different kinds of energy generation and storage, through to working with industrial partners and other university groups then to deploy buildings in real scenarios so that we can see how well they work.
Great, thank you. So we actually submitted the application for these awards back in June 2020. So it's been nearly coming up to a year since then. And what's new with the project?
Well, it's a strange year, clearly, because we're in a pandemic situation, and doing this kind of work in this situation is even more challenging than it would be normally. But what's been really brilliant, to be fair, is that the teams of researchers have continued to be very innovative and come up with ways of doing their research work more remotely. They've continued to create great strides in knowledge and new ideas and themes for the project. And critically for us in terms of building demonstration, we've been working with various organizations in India to get the first rural demonstrator building designed, procured, built in this time frame, and that's just starting to occur now, which is incredible, really, given the fact that during this year, much of the world has ceased to be able to do anything, and I think is a great sign of the potential of the team that we've got on both sides of the equation in the UK and in India to do transformative work. And once the pandemic's over, I think the floodgates will open in opportunity.
Very exciting.
Yeah, genuinely very exciting. And I think, it couldn't come at a better time, post the pandemic. We're trying to build back better in the UK, but imagine, if we can help the world build back better through, changing the way we think about buildings so that they're actually powering themselves, and helping, communities, develop new economic models for how they run themselves, provide new educational establishments. And with the work on printed photovoltaics, people who make T-shirts, instead of making T-shirts, make solar panels. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
so that leads me on quite nicely. There's obviously quite a lot of projects aiming to install solar in India because it sort of makes sense. But what's unique about the Sunrise project?
Well, I think that the starting point is the uniqueness of the partnership, right? So, this is Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, Brunel, South Bank and Swansea University working together, led by Swansea. That in itself is unique. But then we're also working in India with 5 of the IITs and 3 other institutions. That's quite unique because oftentimes those people don't always work together. And I think this comes from the fact that we can all see this incredibly exciting challenge of bringing solar power for everyone. Solar power doesn't have to be something which is restricted to the wealthy. It could be something that everyone has, because the sun comes up every day, and if we can capture that energy and use it for something useful, that's just a brilliant way of decarbonizing society and providing energy which is limitless, really, in terms of its potential. I think the other element which I'm very excited about is the degree to which our industrial partners, both in the UK and in India, are engaged in the project, because that means that if we're successful in our initial demonstrations, the scale of the challenge in India is immense, but the sort of companies like Tata who are working with us have the capability to roll the technology out in a way which doesn't just affect single villages and single collections of people, but is of mass significance to populations across the world.
Absolutely, yeah. And you've mentioned all of our many partners there. We have a lot of partners from across a wide range of disciplines as well. What would you say is the benefit to that kind of style of work?
I think the interdisciplinarity, it's a word that's now becoming commonly used. We didn't realize it when we set the project up that that's what we were doing, but it turns out that it's really totally vital for these things to be successful, because we've got people who are looking at the social science aspects and acceptability and talking to the community. So the technology solutions that we as scientists and engineers would normally obsess about will be deployed in a way which is useful to the communities, and that they also understand how to look after it so that it continues to work when our engineers and Tata engineers and so on are not around. And also so that the energy that's produced is useful to us. I know, I like electricity because I can power my car and my fridge, and I can have nice cold wine and snacks and things like that. My energy requirements are very different to everybody else. And by understanding more about what the people want, we can scale the technology appropriately and produce something that's useful to them, not just a shiny ball that's landed from space, which eventually just gets covered in dust and ignored.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it needs to be relevant, doesn't it? Finally, then, what are your long-term hopes for the project if it all goes well?
For us, a critical thing at the moment is in and around UK government funding of this kind of work, and I think it's absolutely vital for Britain to have a role as a scientific leader in the world that this kind of project is supported. We in our project are looking at energy and the provision of energy. In other projects in the scheme, people are looking at water provision and aspects of health and well-being around disease control and so on. So these projects affect populations around the world, and all of those positive things that we can do take some time to actually achieve. But if we achieve them, not only does the well-being of those societies and people improve, but so does ours, because actually the benefit comes back to the UK from the point of view of some of the companies and people that are involved in supplying materials, but also when the world is less stressed in terms of energy and less reliant on coal and less reliant on burning things, overall that's a good result for us in the UK, because even if we decarbonised our entire society, it would make no difference really to global CO2 levels. When in India this week there was discussion potentially about opening up 40 new coal reserves, right? We don't have to do that necessarily, because you could take a different path to energy and use the abundant energy that comes from the sun. We all look forward to meeting our global friends, although I guess one of the positives also of the pandemic has been that we can meet them more regularly, but we just have to use a Zoom or or Teams, whichever one is most popular at the time. And that probably has saved a bucket load of CO2 on air transport.